Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to hop online really quickly to just check in with you and then go over a couple of different topics. And First off, you guys are all doing an amazing job. Many of you are tracking macros for the first time, and I've been super impressed with the commitment and how close you guys are getting on the numbers. It's unbelievable. I know this isn't easy. Many of you have already reached out to me and said, the protein number is really hard, or I feel like I'm eating a lot of food. These are all normal reactions, but you guys are doing a really awesome job. I really encourage you to stick with consistency in these numbers for at least a couple of weeks. And then if we need to make some adjustments to your numbers, let's definitely talk about that, okay? So the weekend is a little bit tough, right? Sometimes structure of the day is a little bit different than we're used to during the week, depending on, your work schedule and things like that. But we're going to touch on a couple of things having to do with the weekend and planning. And then I do want to talk a little bit here today about the scale. I did receive a couple of questions from a couple individuals, just how much should I be weighing myself and things like that. So we'll touch on that. And then as far as weekend strategies go, we will focus this next week on some of those weekend strategies and there will be a lot more information and posts and tips and tricks, but I just wanted to get us through the first week of introducing a lot of the basics for this nutrition program. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, so bear with me. The posts won't be quite as long this week, but I had to get a lot of that information out to you. All right, so let's start with the topic of the scale. So how often should you be weighing yourself? And this is going to be super individual and different for each of you. And it's very dependent on a few things. And you'll see what I mean by it's individual and unique to each person. So number one, I need you to think about what sort of attachment do you have to the number that you see on the scale. So that number is going to fluctuate for sure. This process, especially if you're doing fat loss, it's not a linear decline as far as the scale goes. So there's going to be days where you're up a couple of pounds. There's going to be days where you're down a couple of pounds. So if you're up 2 pounds or 3 pounds or even 4, please know that doesn't necessarily mean that you've gained 2 or 3 pounds. And you absolutely have not gained 2 pounds of fat overnight, okay? So couple pounds here and there, not a big deal at all. There's going to be a daily fluctuation based on a lot of different factors. You may be retaining water in different ways. For the women in the group, you may be at a point in the month where you're going to weigh a little bit heavier. So these daily fluctuations are completely normal. To give you a little perspective, I weigh myself a few times a week. I do. And I kind of note like what the average for the week has been and what that looks like. And then I take that data over a longer period of time. So say 6 months, and I know kind of what my long-term progress is or what I'm seeing in the pattern of my weight. So just because the scale is not moving immediately does not mean that you're not losing fat, okay? That's really important to remember. Fat loss and weight loss are actually two different things. Sometimes we use them interchangeably, but they are two different things, which is why the questionnaire that you received specifically says fat loss, not weight loss. While you're losing fat, you could be gaining muscle, and muscle is more dense than fat, so your weight could be impacted. If you are working out a lot, you may be gaining muscle. So keep that in mind. And then that scale is just representative of the net number. So muscle versus fat, that's one thing to think about. So first off, determine what your attachment to that number is, and whether or not weighing yourself frequently is a good idea. Number two, if you have a hard time looking at the scale and it kind of crushes your mood or brings you down, I don't recommend that you weigh yourself often, okay? It shouldn't have that much meaning in your life, and you may want to go back to just like taking pictures or notice how clothes are fitting differently. I sent out a list of measurements with the sample grocery list at the beginning of the program. Use those other tools of measurement if stepping on the scale is going to crush your day. All right. Number 3, and lastly, on the questions to think about is, am I retaining water? So there's often a lot of retention happening, water retention happening when you begin to lose fat. And the fat cells, they fill up with water to keep it the same size, just in case those fats are going to come back in the short term. Then the water releases and shrinks down. So you could be experiencing this. And I'll post about this a little bit later in the program, but it's called the fat whoosh when the water retention leaves those fat cells. So that's one thing to consider as far as water retention. That's very normal when you are losing fat. So like I said, everyone is doing really great with macros and participation, and you all are posting answers to the questions, and I'm really excited about the enthusiasm. It is going to be tricky to keep that momentum for the full 6 weeks, but a lot of these questions are going to help us to do that. And then that's why I hop on these videos and kind of check in. But again, keep asking those questions. One thing to note with macros, and this is also really important, a lot of important information in this video. If you're under for your macro numbers, you're not necessarily doing yourself any favors. Okay. So I've been pretty conservative with the macro numbers I gave you. But if you're working fat loss macros, please be aware that you are in a caloric deficit. I didn't set anyone on a super, super aggressive macro plan because I don't believe that it's necessarily sustainable, and it's very difficult to comply when we're not eating enough food. We'll go more into how you calculate macros in a later week because we're going to be talking about adjusting macros toward the end of the program. But what you need to know is that your body is adapting to what we give our bodies. Okay, so our body adapts to what we give it. Please do not give your body only 1,200 calories. Your body will adapt to that. Your system will slow down. It thinks it only needs 1,200 calories, and then your metabolism slows down. So please eat as much as I've given you, or try to. Let's talk strategies if it's very difficult to reach those numbers. But again, you're not getting ahead by eating less. Continue to hit the numbers. Know if you're under on those numbers. You're not going to have faster progress if you are. So we're thinking more about a long-term solution. So I've set your calories in a way that you can practice this in a more long-term way or long-term manner. So please be steady with what we're giving our bodies, right? Use the same number of calories every day. We're training our metabolism. Very important. All right. So last topic I want to touch on is just the weekend and how to plan. Okay. So we need a plan in place, and some of us are planners. Some of us don't like putting a plan together, but you need it right now to implement these practices and these habits. We'll talk about a plan a lot during the program. I will talk about a plan over and over again. Soon it will start to feel less like a plan because it will build into more of a routine and sort of automatically happen for you. So on the weekends, and now is a good time to start thinking about these things going into Sunday, tomorrow, start looking forward into your week, okay? So look for any obstacles that you could potentially have or that could potentially be in the way of your nutrition goals this week. Do you have traveling this week for work, or are you going on a trip? Do you have a lot of meetings maybe? Do you have activities for your children or your kids? What evenings are going to be more difficult for you because of schedules and time? Which evenings are you absolutely not going to have time to cook? Think about that. Put together a plan. And I want to give you an example of this. So I know I'm going to be working all day throughout the week. This week's a little different. I do have Monday off. I'm not going into the office, but I will be doing some work at home. I don't want to have to think about what I need to pack each day that I go to work or I'm working. When I am leaving for work, it's usually very early in the morning because I am working out before work, and I need to be able to just grab it and go. I can't think about it. I don't want to put any decisions at 5:30 in the morning because it's not going to be the right decisions at that point. So I'm going to plan and prep all of my stuff tomorrow evening, Sunday. That's typically my food prep day, and we'll go over a lot of that tomorrow. I'm going to put together all my breakfasts and put together all of my lunches and my snacks. So then I move my planning toward the evenings and my dinners. So I start to think about my dinners. I know Monday I'm teaching until 6:30 in the evening. I am off of work, so I'm thinking I'm going to put together like a crock pot meal that I can cook throughout the day while I'm at home. Tuesday, I have a really late work meeting happening, so my schedule is a little different than I'm used to on Tuesdays, and then I have a dinner afterwards, so I know I'm going to have to plan for eating out. Wednesday, I need to put together a plan for dinner and make sure that when I go to the grocery store tomorrow, I have the items I need to create that meal. Thursday, again, I need to figure out what to eat that night. Friday, I need to cook dinner that night as well. But I know that Saturday morning, I'm teaching and I have a test. So Friday night, I can't be spending a lot of time cooking. So it's got to be the most simple dinner possible, so that Saturday is, goes without problems for me. So Friday, got to keep it super simple. Saturday, I have a date night planned with my husband, so I'll be eating out. I know I'll be eating out that evening. And then Sunday, I've got one more meal to plan for. So why did I go through all of that? There's a reason. I am encouraging each of you to go through each day for this week. And I would like you to physically write out or type out your plan for each day for the 3 main meals, and then write a list of the snacks that you're going to have on hand this week. Write it, plan it, and then put your grocery list together. So this is your assignment for planning for the week. I'd like you to do this for a few weeks and put together a really solid plan. And then maybe after a few weeks, when you kind of have the hang of it, you don't have to write it all down anymore, but give it a shot in the beginning. Even if planning's not your jam, let's try planning each of our individual days for our nutrition choices. Okay, so overall here, you've got 4 things to do for a plan. Number 1, understand the obstacles you're going to have for the week. Number 2, plan out each day. Number 3, build that grocery list. And then number 4, get everything you need. Run to the grocery store or get the items you need. All right, so we've got a plan. We talked scale, a little check-in about macros and meeting numbers. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can email me. If texting is better for you, email me and I'll give you my contact info there. And you can post in the comments of this video. I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday evening, and there will be some more information coming your way on meal prep for this weekend, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.